Welcome once again to Wesley Impact. I'm glad you could join us. In my thought later, I'm going to be explaining some of the words we find at the outset of Mark's Gospel. We take a look at Wesley Mission's mentoring programme, Wesley's Aunties and Uncles programme, which has celebrated 40 years of this important work. And as we get closer to Christmas, we highlight a ministry that's working for the benefit of many Australian families who are often at great need at Christmas, with their loved ones, as we say, behind bars. The Angel Tree programme provides children with love, care and gifts. Richard Feeney joins us to talk about spreading hope to children in need. Richard, it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Keith.
Now, look, the Angel Tree programme is a worldwide ministry. Tell us about how it started.
Well, Angel Tree started in 1982 by a prison fellowship volunteer by the name of Mary K. Beard. And she was actually inside prison herself. And she noticed at Christmas time a lot of churches were coming in doing the Christmas presentations and bringing little gifts and toiletry items and tracts, etc. And some of the women only came at Christmas time. And it kind of bugged her a bit. She thought, why don't they come to chapel, you know, all the other times that at Christmas they come? But then she realised that they were actually getting those gifts to give to their children. And that touched her because she thought they were kind of selfish, and then realised, well, she was, you know, they were doing the other thing and giving them to their kids. So when she left prison and volunteered with Prison Fellowship, her first task was a project for Christmas. And that's how Angel Tree started.
Tell us about the Australian.
Yeah, well, Prison Fellowship started in Australia in 1981. And so the Angel Tree programs run in each of the states, right across Australia. And it was one of the programs when Prison Fellowship first started in Australia, obviously, was started from 1981 onwards. Yeah.
And what about how people feel? What is it that they feel, and most of all, what you're really wanting or aiming to do?
Well, Prison Fellowship obviously is about visiting inmates in prison, but when you do that, it doesn't take long to start to realise the impact of that separation from family. Yes. So you're ministering to someone inside prison, but yet there's another group of people that are really feeling the hurt and feeling that, you know, the impact when somebody's incarcerated. And obviously the children get a fair brunt of that. And so prison ministry isn't just in prison. You start to realise prison ministry is much broader than that. So it has to incorporate the prisoner, their family, and obviously when prisoners come back into the community.
There's a danger at the moment. Lots of television programmes. People have a kind of insatiable interest to see what life in prison is like. But it's no glorified place, is it? For many people, it's just hard emotions and separation and pain. That's some of the toughest stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And in Mary K. Beard's case, when she was looking at what can I do for a Christmas program, she thought, well, there's lots of churches going into prison at Christmas time, but what about the kids at home?
Yes.
And that was the kind of the foundation of Angel Tree. You may not be able to go into a prison, yes, but you can actually help a family that's been disconnected through imprisonment.
And also understand what it's like for a family to be disconnected too from their loved one, can't they? They'll understand that better than anybody else.
Well, it's probably one of the biggest pains of imprisonment. And obviously there's the cry of the inmate, but it doesn't take long to hear that cry of the family as well. And sometimes it's worse.
What's the response like? You know, you've described what they do. They go in there to help those families. What's the response like from the families themselves?
From the families in relation to Angel Tree? From the children's perspective, there's a surprise. It's like, it's from Dad, it's from Daddy, it's from Daddy. And they're wondering, how did Daddy do this?
Yes,
and it keeps that connection together. And obviously from the caregiver, that has a big impact upon them as well.
Yes.
But the impact back inside the prison is enormous because there's so much stress around Christmas time in prison. It's one of the volatile periods. And here in Australia, obviously, the summer heat added to that.
Yeah.
And it can be a volatile time. You know, Christmas is when families get together.
Look, Richard, we're going to talk a little more in a moment about the ministry that you're involved with there. But before we talk more, I'd like to introduce today's performer. Sancha Prowse is a regular on the show. She's a vocal coach in Sydney and has chosen a beautiful carol, a song appropriate for the season. Hope you enjoy Jesus, Joy of the Highest Heaven.
Jesus, joy of the highest heaven, born as a little baby under a wondrous star. Like us, crying, he takes his first breath, held by his mother helpless, close to her beating heart. Jesus, laid in a lowly manger, facing a world of dangers, come to turn me, a stranger, into a child of God. Jesus, joy of the highest heaven, born as a little baby under a wondrous star. Like us, crying, he takes his first breath, held by his mother helpless, close to her beating heart. Jesus, laid in a lowly manger, facing a world of dangers, come to turn me, a stranger, into a child of God. Jesus, King of the highest heaven, learning to take his first steps, that he might bring us life. Like us, knowing our smiles and sorrows, he showed the way to follow, a way that is true and right. Jesus, take away every darkness, steady my simple footsteps, that I might in your goodness live as a child of God. Jesus, take away every darkness, steady my simple footsteps, that I might in your goodness live as a child of God.
Be inspired by Keith Garner's new book, The Authentic Australian Evangelist, Alan Walker. Former Superintendent Alan Walker was once labelled the conscience of the nation, speaking out for the marginalised and the broken across social, political and international debate. Alan's life and work at Wesley Mission is also featured in an address by Keith Garner on DVD. For more information, call 1800 021 821 or visit our website wesleymission.org.au.
Now, if you want to know more about Sancha, her details are going to be online all this week, and the great thing is the whole programme you can find by going onto our website. We're back with the New South Wales State Director of Prison Fellowship, Richard Feeney. Richard, tell us a little bit of your own story and what you love most about your work.
Well, 1980 was the year when I became a Christian, and that was at the age of 20, and I didn't have any church upbringing at all, so I'd never read the Bible, didn't go to church. And so it was from that time on where, you know, I really got hungry for the things of God and loved Jesus. And I got a little motto, it was somewhere around that first year, and that's never changed. And my motto is not saved for myself, but for others. Mm-hmm. And that's just been like a stream that's, for all those years, it's, even though the different activities I've been doing have changed, that's always been the same. That I'm not saved for myself but for others, and that's why I'm in what I'm doing now in prisons. And
how did you get into all that work?
Well, I was centre manager of community centres, and in Blacktown, Redfern, and in Campbelltown, and I just saw this recurring theme of families in our communities of prison, and I really wasn't too much aware of that, other than we know there's verses in the Bible about prison. But just to hear people talking about my partner's in jail, my hubby's in jail, we're doing it tough. I've just come out of prison, I'm doing it tough. And my ears were kind of You know, God got my attention with that, and it was something I couldn't ignore. And it's in our own backyard. We might watch those shows on TV and see what's happening in the UK and America, but what's it like in prisons in Australia, and what impact does that have in our community? And that was something I couldn't ignore.
Look, let's get back to this wonderful Angel Tree ministry, because one of the things that you clearly do is in chaplaincy, and the chaplains you relate to and the people in the prison visit people in their own rooms, their cells, and talk to them. How does Angel Tree ministry affect the other side of this equation? We talked about the families.
Yeah.
How does it affect the prisoners themselves?
Well, I've actually got a little letter here from an inmate.
Sure,
if I
tell
could
us
read,
about it.
yeah, if I could read just one little aspect of that. But this is one little part of his letter that he wrote to us, and for an inmate to write to us, that's a big thing in itself.
Yes, sure.
But he says here at the end, "For all of your gifts, again, thank you. It is truly overwhelming. In those times, my children felt my absence. God has used your ministry to my children and filled the gap. Thank you. I'll be going home this year and say for the past 2 years of ministering to my kids, thank you." There's a lot of thank yous in there.
Absolutely.
And it obviously does have an impact. But that little bit he said there about you've helped fill that gap.
And that's gratifying in the ministry you do, because it isn't something that you necessarily every day say, oh, well, that's definitely this, that is. That's a clear indication that that ministry is appreciated and it's blessed by God, really, isn't it, in that sense?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are many other stories that you can... Are there any others that you stick in your mind when you think about these people?
Well, just two quick ones. One was an inmate who actually gave a donation to Angel Tree.
Marvellous.
And I went to visit him just to thank him, and it was quite a substantial donation. And he just, I said, you know, I went to see him and thanked him, and he just said, look, just thank you for the great work you're doing. Another one, when I walked into the prison, a guy just saw the Prison Fellowship logo.
Yeah.
And he just said, oh, you guys do Angel Tree. Thank you so much. But we got a phone call in our office one day from a young lady called Brooke, and she said, I would like to give a donation for Angel Tree, and I'd like to come and help and support, because you guys don't know the impact that Angel Tree's having, because I myself was a child on the receiving end of those gifts.
Marvellous. So tell me, if people want to help, how can they do that?
They can help by going and looking at our website and contacting the State Ministry of Prison Fellowship, and they can, because each state may do it a little bit differently, but they can help with sponsoring gifts, or they may be able to get involved in the Angel Tree program and bringing gifts to the families. So the best place to start is contact the Prison Fellowship office in your state.
Or in other countries if they're sharing
Or
with
in
us.
other countries, that's correct. Like Prison Fellowship's in 125 different nations. And often we will have Angel Tree requests where we have to send the information to the other country. New Zealand sends some to us, and we send to New Zealand, etc. And Asia, so yeah.
And our website will be speaking to yours, and we'll be linking up, so people want to go onto our website, they'll find much more about that themselves. So we're going to be back in just a moment. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been 200 years since the first Methodists met in Australia. To celebrate 2 centuries of faith and pioneering care, CEO and presenter Rev Dr Keith Garner takes us back to where it all began.
But we don't begin here at the heart of London. We begin in a town in the north of England.
In this fascinating narrative, Rev Garner chronicles the history of the life and times of the founder of Methodism, John Wesley. This fresh and thought-provoking documentary takes us on a journey throughout the United Kingdom, beginning in John Wesley's hometown of Epworth.
John Wesley was born here on the 17th of June, 1703.
This 1-hour DVD travels onto his education years and beginnings of social justice in Oxford, to his final years in London. For more information on John Wesley, the man and his mission, call 02 9263 5555 or email us at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
At Wesley Mission, we have programmes to help children reach their full potential. The Wesley Aunties and Uncles programme is celebrating 40 years in operation. Let's take a look at Taylor's story.
My name is Taylor. I became part of the Wesley Aunties and Uncles program when I was around 4 years old. And now I'm 18 and I'm studying International and Global Studies at the University of Sydney. I became involved with Wesley Aunties and Uncles through my mum. In childhood, the family dynamic was my mum and my sister, so It was a very small, tight-knit family. Didn't have many opportunities to do the big things that all my friends were doing and stuff.
I remember the first time I met Taylor and her mum, Lisa, and sister Ashley. When Taylor first came, everything went really well. She was happy here. Circumstances were quite difficult home for Lisa, really quite hard, especially an unsupported mother with 2 little ones.
Some of the things I've enjoyed doing as part of the program was we always really loved coming and visiting the dress-up box that Marianne had in her back room, and we'd always put on fairy costumes and stuff because we never had that stuff at home. It was just all really exciting, and Nikki and Lauren would always help us with our makeup and putting on fairy rings and stuff, so it was all really lovely.
Taylor's just brought another dimension. I mean, our children were growing up at this stage, and here we have nearly a 4-year-old come into the home, and it was a very joyous time. Those weekends were special, and I look forward to that.
Wesley Aunties and Uncles was founded in 1974 by a remarkable lady of faith called Rose Wide. Rose was a very humble lady, and her final request to me before she passed earlier this year was that her image was never to be shown, because she felt the Holy Spirit actually founded Wesley Aunties and Uncles, and that the glory really should be given to God.
Aunties and Uncles came to Wesley Mission in 2010. At that particular time, the programme was in danger of closing its doors due to lack of finances. Since that time, Wesley Aunties and Uncles have supported a further 150 mentor-mentee relationships, and we have 300 children still on our waiting list.
When I hear the words Wesley Aunties and Uncles, it means quite a lot to me. It's mainly about opportunities to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, I think it's a really good program for those opportunities.
Taylor is one of 4,000 children that we've matched over the past 40 years at Wesley Aunties and Uncles. It's just an incredible, inspirational story. I'm very proud to say that Wesley Aunties and Uncles has a huge success rate in our matching process. It's around 95%, but there's also that lovely support that they've received from their case managers, where they can contact us anytime and they're speaking to us about how things are travelling.
I never met the founder of Wesley Aunties and Uncles, but without Rose and Wesley Aunties and Uncles, I don't think I'd be able to go to university, especially without the support that my auntie and uncle have given me and the encouragement they've given me to fulfil my goals.
Mark begins his gospel with a simple but bold statement that becomes, if you like, an underlying premise throughout the whole gospel. Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Always during Advent, we're drawn to look at the different characters that make up the story, and we turn to John the Baptist, who had a particular role in preparing the way for the coming of Jesus Christ. Mark tells us when we read the gospel that great crowds went out to John in the wilderness, that many of those people were baptized by John, and his message pointed to someone else who was to be the Christ. Let me read to you from Mark's Gospel, the first chapter, verses 4 through to 8. And so John the Baptist appeared in the wilderness, preaching a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. The whole of the Judean countryside and all the people of Jerusalem went out to him. Confessing their sins, they were baptized by him in the Jordan River. John wore clothing made of camel's hair, with a leather belt around his waist, and he ate locusts and wild honey. And this was his message: after me comes the one who is more powerful than I, the straps of whose sandals I'm not worthy to stoop down and untie. I baptize you with water, but he will baptize you with the Holy Spirit. We often describe John the Baptist in the way that the verse that introduces that section in Mark explains, that he is a voice crying in the wilderness. Really powerful image, isn't it, that really? He left the holy city. There may have been reasons for that. One of the reasons that people have suggested is it might well be because of the corruption and some of the life that he was struggling with that was happening in the city. Another point that's really worth holding on to is that for 400 years, there'd been prophetic silence. Prophets were so much and so important, as we read in the Old Testament, but for 400 years, nobody was declaring that prophetic message. And then John the Baptist cried in that wilderness. It's no wonder the people went out to hear him. And John may well have felt shoved to the periphery. He may have been mocked and feared. People may have found the way he dressed, the way he spoke to be unusual, yet his words were very pertinent. They spoke with clarity to people's needs. They spoke with clarity in his own day, but I think they have a powerful message if we push them all the way down to the present day. Now, amidst all the soon-to-arrive splendour of Christmas, it's right for us during Advent to consider that God had long prepared for the coming of his Son. And John the Baptist is so much a part of that story. His call that things should be different, straight paths, plain ways, have their own powerful message for us even today. Now that message is a real one in Advent. And I'm very, very much reminding people, don't rush on to Christmas. I know the shops want you to. I know everybody else wants you to. Just hold it back long enough to consider some of those characters in the Advent story. I think of Mary, the mother of Jesus. I think of John the Baptist and all those people that helped to prepare the way. And what does it mean for us today to make the ways straight, to be ready to receive him into our lives afresh and powerfully? It's a message that perhaps will disturb us. And I know people don't like the thought that Christmas can have in the midst of it some disturbance. But perhaps if John the Baptist were sharing with us, he might ask us to have a special time for such people as we've heard about today in prison, those who are living in poverty, those whose lives are pushed to the margins. He might say, make a straight path so that these people count, so that these people matter. And so it might disturb us. It might call us to look at ourselves and to look at how we celebrate Christmas. It might say to us, think of those people, not only who for one day of the year, but for 364 or 5 days of the year, know what it is to be marginalised and poor, and reach out to them. You know, we have a lot of people who come to us at Wesley Mission and say they want to be volunteers at Christmas, and we're always willing to receive such help. But, you know, I often say to them, you know, when we really need you is in July. Come back in July and give us a month then. Come and help us with some of the special events in the middle of winter. Well, God bless you as you continue to prepare your way on the way through Advent to Christmas. But spare a thought for John the Baptist, who made the way clear and said to us we ought to have a straight path in our lives to receive Christ.
If you would like to know more about today's topic or for more on Keith's message, contact Keith by writing to Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235, or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
Now, thanks for joining us. Do check out that website. Whole program's available there to see all again and some of the great things we've had in this show. Now, I'm going to leave you with Shani Russell singing One Little Baby Could Change the World, and how he did. Until next week, goodbye and God bless you.
Things were brewing and the time has come. All God's people at the end of the tether, and they wondered when the promised one would come. Old King Herod was a scaredy cat, saw where things were at, so he did what he needed to make sure that the one who was promised would not come. Did you know that one little baby could change the world? Did you know that one little baby could change the world? Did you know that child born in a manger was the love of God unfurled, and he changed the world? Angel said, now Joseph, listen up. This child of Mary is a child of from heaven came to sing out a chorus, and the shepherds shook, 'cause the one who was promised had come. Did you know